guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Bethel, and if you've been here for a long time, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I don't know how time flew, but in November I took a break to make clothes because I had big orders coming in November, and I just somehow forgot about you guys. I didn't forget about you guys, I just didn't have the time to post, and I'm so sorry about that. But a couple of things have happened. I've upgraded. I'm now a full-time fashion designer. Me, I don't just sew on the side. Many of you guys are going to get more tutorials. As you can see, I have a store now, so that's something good. But if you've been here all along, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for not posting. But today's video is going to be a tutorial. A lot of people have actually asked for this particular tutorial. It's going to be how to sew palazzo pants. So now I made these palazzo pants for myself. Actually went for a fashion show at school for my graduation, but I made those pants, and those are the pants I wore. And this tutorial is going to show you exactly how I made it. Pants are very easy. It's literally 4 lines. I'm not even joking. Sewing pants is just like 4 lines. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's nothing much. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut the pants, how to cut the pockets, how to sew the pockets, how to sew the pants, how to add waistband to the pants to make it look like it did marvelously beautiful on me. Stay tuned, and I'm sure you guys are going to love this tutorial. So when cutting the pants, the first thing we're going to do is fold the fabric into 2, just like when we're cutting any regular thing. So now, first thing we need to put into consideration is our thigh. So my thigh is 24, I believe, divided by 2, that's going to be 12. So I want to make sure I have up to 12 here. So I have 12, but it's 12 exactly. I want to make sure I have more than 12 because I want my pants to be like really flared out on the bottom. So I'm going to extend this up to here. Let me look at these patterns. I think they're facing the same way, so it doesn't matter how I turn this fabric. So now make sure this is folded on the wrong side of the fabric. So now next I'm going to cut out this block so that way it's not too much stuff for me to deal with, because right now it's too much. I'm going to cut it off camera and come back. Now that my block is cut out, this is going to be so much more easy for me to work with than having to manipulate that big bulk of fabric. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my length. My length is 41 for the pants because I want it really long, so that way I can wear heels with it and it's still touching the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my length as 41. So when I measure 41, since this is an Ankara fabric, it's definitely going to have, so it has about 4 inches left on the bottom right here. I'm not going to cut that off. Instead, I'm just going to bend it right at my 41. Like that. Because I'm just going to make it have a big bend instead of actually cutting it off, so that way I can have enough fabric to work with. So now the first thing I'm going to do right now on the top side is I'm going to take my waist measurement. So now my waist is going around my body, so my waist is going to be divided by 4. So my waist measurement is going to be 25. I'll go ahead and divide 25 by 4. 25 divided by 4 is 6.5 ish. So I'll go ahead and put my 6.5 right here. Just mark it out so that you guys can see where my 6.5 stops. So now to that 6.5, I'm going to add an additional 2 inches because I want to have sort of a pleat in front. Actually, I'm going to make that 3 inches, so it's like a 1.5 inch pleat. So I'm going to make that 3 inches for my pleat in front. Then next, I'm going to add a 1 inch allowance, so that 3 inches for stitching on the sides. So now if I did not have my pleat, I'll just add that 1 inch allowance. I'm just being extra by adding that allowance right now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is from the top right there, I'm going to measure 10 inches down for my crotch. It's going to be a high-waisted pant, but at the end of the day when I add my band and everything, it's going to amount to 12 inches. But for a start, let's go ahead and mark my 10. So now on that crotch line, I'm going to go ahead and measure my thigh. So my thigh is 24. So if you divide 24 by 2, you're going to get 12 inches. So we're dividing by 2 because it's just one thigh and not 2. So for this part, you can also go ahead and measure your hip, because when you measure your hip, if you don't measure your hip, sometimes it's going to end up being too small. So my hip is 35. So go ahead and divide 35 by 4. Why? Because 35 is around the body, not just one leg. So I'm just going to use it. That's what I'm going to put on this part, so that way I can make sure it's not too tight on my butt. So 35 divided by 4 is 9.5. Okay, so we're good. yeah, we're good on this part. I'm just using it to see. If it was a fitted pant, you're going to see that the waist is here, the hip is here, so I have to put that into consideration. But it's not a fitted pant, so we're kind of good. So now for the thigh, come back to the thigh. It's actually 12, but I remember adding that 2-inch allowance for bulk. But for the thigh part, I'm not going to add, so I'm just going to add like 1. Then I'm also going to add 1 for stitching. So that brings us to 14. We're adding a total of 2 inches. So now this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and join my curve like this. So this is what my curve should look like. You can use like what's it called, a French curve to draw this curve out, but I just like to freehand. I haven't actually made pants in a while, so just in case I mess up, that's my excuse. So now, as you guys can see, the legs are already looking like really wide. I'm not even going to add any flare to this. I'm just going to cut it out straight, and then I'll see what it looks like at the end. So I'll just go ahead and from this line right here, just sort of taper it a little bit and then come off like this. So just draw a straight line, sort of a little bit tapered, and then sort of come up a bit. So this is going to be my front block for my pants. So I'll go ahead and cut this off. So I've cut out the front and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the back too. So for cutting out the back, I'm just going to go ahead and fold down that fabric like this, and I'm going to place it on. So I'll do that off camera. I'll come back to you guys. Okay, so now when cutting traditional pants, it's advised that you add 2 inches to the back side. So this part on the back side is supposed to be 2 inches when you're cutting regular pants. Why? Because of the butt, because the butt bigger in front than at the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'm not going to add 2 inches though. I'm just going to be adding 1 inch because this already has like a lot of volume and my butt is not that big. So I'll just add 1 inch, then also add 1 inch here and sort of like let this taper out. I'm not really adding too much on the waist because I already have that allowance. I don't want it to be too big at the end. I already have 1 inch allowance there, which is half for both sides after I do my plait. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of like taper this out like this. Then when I taper it out, I'm just going to go ahead and sort of like connect this to this one like this. Look, I don't really want the bottom to have more volume than it already does. So that's it for the back. Just like I said, if it was on a regular basis, you're doing like 2 inches or more, depending on how big the person's butt is. But I'm just doing 1 because this already has like a lot of volume. I don't want to be swimming in the pants. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this off. So now I have my front piece and my back piece. I'm going to go ahead and just open it right here on the side. Okay, so now this is my front and back piece, and if you believe it or not, we're almost done cutting these pants. Pants are like very easy to cut out. You just, I don't know, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go. So now I'm just going to keep my back piece and then take my front piece. Now on my front piece is where I'm going to be marking for my pocket. I don't want like the traditional jean type pocket that goes V. I want to have like just a straight pocket, so that way there's a pocket there, but nobody exactly knows there's a pocket there to put your hands in. I just feel like those pockets have like a really nicer look on Ankara, because if I put like the slap one, who's even gonna see it? So now for this one, what I'm gonna do is, normally it actually starts from the top. So from the top, I'm going to measure 7.5 inches. I'm only measuring half inches, you know, because of the half inch allowance on top, but pocket size is normally 7. So now on my 7-inch mark, I'm going to make a ½ inch notch, which is basically just me cutting this like this. So that's my ½ inch notch. When you measure it, is ½ inches. It's very important that you don't cut more or less than ½ inches, because the allowance we have here is ½ inch. So if we do the notch too big, it's going to have like a hole in the pants. If it's too small, it's not going to balance out when we sew it. So that's what we're doing on the pants. And I'm going to go get like a spare fabric or like lining or something, and I'm going to cut out the pocket on it. I'll show you how I cut out my pockets. So this is the first fabric I came across in my stash. It's yellow. The thing has yellow, so I'll just go ahead and use it. After all, it's not going to show. So I mean, even if it shows, just like a tiny yellow line that's going to show. And the fabric has yellow. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold this into 4, preferably with this part on top. Fold this into 4. Now our pocket's depth is 7. Remember, I measured 7 inches. So we want to make sure that our actual pocket length is more than 7. So that way, like, you know, what's the point if it's just 7? So some people have it at 14, but I think 14 is too long. What am I trying to put in? I feel like 12 inches is a good point, because then the opening ends here on the pant, right? So if you have this depth, you can actually put your phone in. This is still too long for my liking, but yeah, you can put your phone in here. So now this is the pocket. So now the width, 7 or 6. In this case, I'm going to be using 6.5, even if I think that that might be too big, because you have to consider it's going to go into the waistband, right? And my waist is 25 divided by 4. So I want to make sure that the pocket width is not more than 6, because if not, it's going to start entering into our thigh. So now the pocket width, let's make it to be 6, so that when we sew half and half, it's just going to, you know, be right there, not too much on the thigh. So now on this lower part, I'm just going to make a curve. I honestly do not know the explanation as to why there's a curve in pocket, but there is. So that's my curve. So it's just going to be a straight line from here, like so. The pen is not penning. And then curve on the bottom. So I'll cut this out now so you guys can see. Like this. So that's it. That's what our pocket. So that's what our pocket looks like. Now I'm going to show you guys how to attach the pocket. Okay, so now this is I'm going to take the front of the pants. So now what I'm gonna do is, just so I know, I'm going to mark my front and my back. So I do that by just drawing an X on the I don't want to confuse you guys. So I mark an X on the wrong side of the fabric, so that way I know that that's the wrong side of the fabric, because they are basically the same thing. I don't want to mix up any pieces. So now I'm going to take my pockets like this, take one piece of it, take one piece of my front, then I'm going to the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to place my pocket like so on the right side of the fabric. Then I'm going to sew a straight line and then stop right where my notch is. So this distance from this to the straight line is going to be 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go sew that straight line now and come back and show you. Okay, so I stitched the line and I use white thread so you guys can see it. So next thing I'm going to do is, you guys can see this notch down, right? I'm just going to cut it right here on the top too, so that way I'm sort of like replicating it. So just make the notch right here like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, you can iron this just to make sure it's flat, but I don't want to go to the ironing board because I don't really have that much time. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this like so. And then you could do a top stitch if you want, or you could actually do an actual stitch on the pocket. So for this one, I think I'll be doing an actual stitch on the pocket. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go and do a straight line here. I decided to do a top stitch because I don't want people to really know that there's a pocket. And if I do the stitch outside, they're going to know that there's a pocket there. So how to do a top stitch is, you put the fabric like this, you sort of open it like this, and then you push all the allowance to the side of the lining, and then you stitch right very close to this line, but not on this line. Then you just do a straight stitch. So I'll do that and show you what it looks like. So now the top stitch is done, and this is what it looks like. It's just like an inside stitch. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this like so, like this, so that way you can see that pocket shape. Then what I'm going to do is, like 1/2 inch from here, 1/2 inch from that notch, I'm going to sew round and stop right here. Then I'll show you guys what that looks like. So I'm done stitching. The next thing I'm going to do is, right where I stopped, which is like 1/2 inch after that notch, I'm just going to make another notch that's also 1/2 inch like this. Then I'm going to just trim the rest of this to like 1/4 inch or like 1/8 of an inch. So like this. So now the next thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn my pocket in like so. Like this. Then I'm going to sew on top round like this to sort of seal that other stitch in. So this is what it looks like after I've stitched it round. So now when you open inside the pocket, you wouldn't see any rough edges. So it's sort of like neat. That way when you open your, I'm just going to trim this away. That way when you open your pockets, you don't see any like rough edges because it was sewn like that. So now, next thing I'm going to do is, I'm just going to go and iron all my pieces, which is what I should have done from the start, but I just wanted to postpone it at the pocket. So I'm going to do the second pocket for this, iron my pieces, and then iron my pleats, so that way I can join the rest of the pieces. Because basically we're all done, just now just be joining lines. So while I was ironing it, by the way, I'm done ironing. Let me just show you what it looks like. So this is the plate. I ironed the plates down, so that way it just stays. Oh yeah, I thought I ironed on the wrong side. And this is the pocket. I ironed it down so it's smooth too. So while I was ironing, I realized I did not, like, you know, leave an allowance for zipper. So I'll just go ahead and put an invisible zipper, because I forgot zippers existed. So I'll use an invisible zipper just because, like I said, I want this to be somewhat seamless, so you don't see too many lines. So I'll use an invisible zipper. If you don't know how to fix one, go ahead and click on the bubble to watch my video on how to fix different types of zippers. Also, while I'm fixing my zipper, I'm going to go ahead and do a stitch right here so that it can hold my pleat and my pockets. I finished putting the invisible zipper. See, on a normal day, I would advise I'll get this to a line, like, so just a straight line. But I'm on a time crunch, so I'm gonna ignore that. I can always, like, you know, do it after I wear it for today. But now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach the sides. I'm gonna take the side of the back, and then I'm going to put it on the side of the front, and then I'm just going to sew a straight line to the end. That's how I put the pocket behind, right? So what I'm sewing, as you can see, that allowance that we left made, like, you know, came out, so that way it just continues like a straight line, and the notch we did, like, give it an allowance to hold to the pocket. Just going to go ahead and sew on both sides and come back. So I've sewn the sides. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fold this like this. Just exactly what I'm doing. So fold this out, that way the front part of the zipper is in the front, and then you have your sides aligning. So now I'm going to divide my waist by 2 and mark it out here so I can see exactly where it stops. So my waist divided by 2 is 13. So I'm just going to put this right here, and then right where 13 stops, I'm going to start sewing here, and then sew this curve and stop where the curve ends. So that's about, let me put it well, that's about 3/4 of an inch. So that's what I'm gonna sew. I'm just gonna sew this like this and end right here. Okay, so now I have stitched it. I don't know if you can notice, but I actually did a double line of stitching just so that way it's like reinforced. So now that it's stitched, I'm going to put it like this, like I was actually wearing the actual pants, pockets on both sides, and then I'm going to join it at the crotch area right here. So I'm going to place it like this, and then open here like this. So I'm opening the top, spreading it out, and then also the one on the bottom. Then I'm going to sew a line from here. So that's the legs I'm sewing right now. So sew a line to the end, come back, and then sew another line to the end. That closes the pants and basically almost finishes it for us. Okay, so I just turned the pants inside out or outside in, and okay, so this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut the waistband. So I did forget to mention at the top of this video, when you're cutting pants, normally the back's supposed to be higher than the front. So since I did not do that, I'm going to go ahead and sort of like infuse that into the waistband. So the back of the waistband is going to be slightly higher than the front. Another option is to trim down the front, but I'm not going to do that because of where I placed my zipper. So I'm going to go cut the band off camera and then explain how I got the pattern. Okay, so this is the waistband I cut out. First thing I did was that I folded it into 2. So this is 4 pieces actually. It's open at the top. You don't have to leave your top open, but I already had this scrap fabric and I did not want to waste it. So this is folded into 4 basically. So now that's what, you know, a piece for the front and a piece for the back. So I measured from here to here 13, and then I added 1 inch. So what I'm going to, so I added 1 inch to that. So I also for the tip of the waistband, that's the front part, this is going to be the front part of the waistband, I measured out 3 inches, so that way 1/2 inch for sewing the top, 1/2 inch for sewing the bottom. It leaves me with 2 inches at the end. So now for the back, remember I said I was going to bring it down a bit, so I did bring it down by 1.5 inch, so that's 4. So this is basically my waistband. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this like this, and then I'm just going to sew a straight line on the top like this, and then I'll come back to you guys. So I sewed the top and then I ironed it so that way it's smoother. Now some people like to use gum stay, but personally I do not know why, but I do not like to use gum stay. So I'll just leave my thing like this. So, and that thing I did do when I was at iron, I just folded the back side by about 1/4 inch and then just kind of ironed it. Now you don't have to do this like after the next part I'm going to do, but I just let it do so I don't go back to ironing board. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this part like both sides like this, then I'm going to stitch here down, so that way it gives it a neat finish. Okay, so I sewed it like I said. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and notch this part so that way it turns smoothly when I turn it. I think I got a notch more. So you want to reduce the bulk of fabric on this side so that when it turns, it has like a better point. As you can see, that points out better. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to take my pants, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this side. Let me do this side too. So I'm going to attach this side like this to my pants, and then I'm going to sew the waistband all around, and then I'll come back and show you guys the next step. I feel like I've sewn waistbands in a couple of my videos. I'm not going to focus on this, but if you want to watch like in-depth on the waistband, you can go see my skirt video. So I stitched the waistband down, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, remember I already ironed this one together. I already ironed this like a 1/4 inch inside, so you're going to see the usefulness of that now. So I'm just going to face my waistband like this. Then I'm going to do what we call a stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to sew right in this middle line right here, and that's going to close out and finish my band. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So the this is what the stitch in the ditch looks like. You can see it's just like literally like one line right there that you really can't see. So now that my waistband is done, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch like something to close it, maybe like a button or something. But to finish the bottom part, I'm going to go ahead and re-iron this, just because I'm already losing my pleat lines, and those are very essential in my design. I don't want to lose them. So I'm just going to take the length of the pants again, and then I'm going to fold. Then I'll be using a hemming glue to finish it. So hemming glue is one of these. I'll just iron it on the bottom so that way I have to sew it, and that way it actually like finishes it the way you want it to be. So I'm just going to take the length and then pin this. So when taking the length, I prefer to fold it like this, like put the top here like this. Where's the back? Okay, so fold the back like this, just like you're going to like iron it. So just put it like this, because the length from the side, and if you do it from the front, you might have like something different where the sides are like a little bit higher. I just put it like this, make sure these parts are aligning. I'm going to need a lint roller for this because this whole thing is okay. I believe my length was 41. I'm going to measure 41 from the waistband here because that's included in my length, and then here, oop, I can see that I do have a lot of allowance, but like I said at the beginning of this, I'm not going to cut it because I really don't want to. So the allowance here is 1 2 3 4 5. So I'm going to go ahead and fold 5 inches in, then I'm going to iron it and then put my hemming gum in between the two of them, and then I'm going to come show you guys the end results. So I totally forgot to take a video of the pants, but this was a clip from the fashion show, and coincidentally is the only video of me in these pants. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial to the end. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section exactly what you enjoyed about it, and you know what you want the next tutorial to be, because I'm actually, you know, I don't have ideas right now because, you know, just coming back, I need a couple ideas. So love it if you guys can help me with that. So if you do not know this yet, I have a second channel which I just created like literally today but you're not watching today. So I made a channel today and it just went up, and I'm going to be posting my lifestyle and vlog stuff. So I know I mix everything on this channel here, but that one is going to be a separate channel for such stuff. So I appreciate if you guys can subscribe to it if you guys like my lifestyle posts and my vlogs. But anywho, also subscribe to this if it's your first time here, and I hope to see you guys on my next tutorial.